Alright, where were we? Oh yes, Dark Descent. Dark Descent was a monumental hit that was released at the right time, as it was picked up by the booming Let's Play scene on YouTube. And then, 3 years later, Frictional gave the Chinese Room, who are known for the walking sims like Dear Esther and Everybody Has Gone to Rapture, the chance to make a game with the Amnesia IP, which resulted in Amnesia, a Machine for Pigs. This game is a major disappointment. Let's just go on and say it. This is a pointless sequel that was released the same year Outlast did, and with Outlast being the vastly superior game, A Machine for Pigs is just bland and boring in comparison. There are hardly any monsters, and when there are, they're not scary. They're just midget pig people. The monsters in Dark Descent often had you cowering in the dark for minutes on end, hoping they'd go away, but these ones are just mild annoyances. The puzzles this time around are way simpler, and mostly consist of pushing a button or pushing a door. And as I've already said, the puzzles in Dark Descent were simple, but not this insulting a 3-year-old cool softies kind of simple. This game is basically on rails. You hold W the entire time. In the Dark Descent there were sections where you were locked in a certain number of rooms of the manor, and you had to solve a puzzle going from room to room in whatever order you'd like a very limited free roam. Here, nothing like that. And even then, the moments where the monsters do appear are very scarce. Apart from the fact that this game can be beaten in 5 hours in a regular playthrough. You can tell that these guys didn't really understand the essence of Amnesia and tried to hardcore focus on the story and atmosphere. But I'd like to play devil's advocate and say this. I really like some of the visuals in this game. They really know how to make a Bram Stoker, poish, creepy Victorian setting, which is just what this game needed. And after that monumental flop, there weren't Amnesia games for a long time. But in that time, Frictional Games cranked out another horror game in their trademark horror style. With Soma, I like to think they've learned some lessons. Released in 2015, Soma discards the gothic/medieval elements and substitutes them with sci-fi and cyberpunk. Soma is skillful in its design like Amnesia, but the difference here is that the dialogues and the whole story in general is way better written. The pacing in this game is slower, but I wouldn't say it necessarily drags. I think it's actually smoother. And there are chase sequences, don't get me wrong, but Soma mostly consists of quietly walking around, which rarely gets boring because your mind is always on high alert. Walking down the hall could easily turn into a chase in the blink of an eye. Overall, Soma was a great game that allowed Frictional to evolve and refine their game formula. And I think it's a recommended play for sure if you've ever played Amnesia or are interested in horror games. And then, in late 2020, Frictional Games released an actual decent game to follow the Dark Descent. A decade later, that is, but you know. Amnesia Rebirth took the things they learned from Soma and mixed it with a story following Tassie, a French archaeologist who's stranded in the middle of Algeria, and how she pushes onward to find survivors from her expedition gone wrong, trying to get the answers as to why, well, the trip went wrong. Now, the first thing I've got to comment on the game is that it finishes a lot stronger than it actually begins. The first hour is drab, boring, and almost frustrating. But once you get to the fort and the catacombs later on, it becomes way more entertaining. In general, this game was fine, but it lost some of the charm of the original. The horror elements and overall danger has been toned down dramatically. Like, imagine the prison level in the Dark Descent. One of the most dangerous areas in the entire game with servants roaming the practically pitch black halls. Now imagine that with the gamma shut all the way up and without enemies to speak of. Yeah, it's that scary and mysterious, alright? This game also added the mod support in the way of a Steam workshop for graphics mods and custom stories among other mods, which, you know, in the Dark Descent and Machine for Pigs, you practically had to go to ModDB, download the file, then put it in the custom stories folder, and now you can just do that with the click of a button in Steam. That's great. But yeah, I'd say this game is a disappointment, but it's glad to see, you know, they actually tried once again. They tried it themselves and didn't give it to some three-hand studio to make Machine for Pigs to Electric Boogaloo, which, you know, we can appreciate that at least. And now it's 2023. And a few months ago, we got the news that there was a new Amnesia game coming out soon. Amnesia: The Bunker, which is set in World War I. You play as a soldier trapped in the titular bunker. Oh yeah, they throw away the classic feature of being defenseless by giving you a revolver. With scarce ammo, but you know, my point still stands, you can shoot the monster full of lead. And you know, the game was delayed from its March release date to May, and from May to June, a couple of days ago. And you know, we're all familiar with the Miyamoto quote, it probably needed the extra 3 months in the oven. Demo was released a couple of weeks ago actually, and it wasn't too shabby. I haven't bought the game yet to review it, but I will if you guys are interested. I can see a palpable improvement from Rebirth, which I really appreciate, really. Amnesia had something special. Even in the pre-Amnesia days of Penumbra, you could already see established that it wasn't the boo, haha, got you type of horror that seems to dominate the market. It's a game that makes you dread the enemies by making you feel hopeless and panicked whenever they are near. That's one of the things that differentiates Amnesia from other contemporaries. Amnesia's horror isn't momentary shock. It's a lingering feeling of hopelessness and an overpowering irrational fear of the dark. It's hard to think Dark Descent is going to turn 13 soon. I mean, most of us have vivid memories of watching people like PewDiePie, Markiplier, and countless others play that game. Amnesia is the backbone of some of the platform's greatest creators. That's nuts. This franchise has earned its place as a landmark in gaming history. It was revolutionary and still continues to inspire indie game devs to this day. That being said, the game has lost its charm. Maybe it was meant to be a one-hit wonder, because the qualities of the first Amnesia compared to the others, there's a big nosedive in spookiness and just quality. And we can't exactly blame Frictional for lacking. People come and go just like with every other company, so it isn't really the same people that worked on those earlier games, or even the same people who worked on something like Soma. I mean, it's the same kind of rep Obsidian gets. People praise them for having made a really good game by the name of Fallout New Vegas, but are appalled that the recent Outer Worlds games aren't as good as New Vegas was, failing to understand that people come and go, and that some people don't have the same creative synergy others might have. And just like Frictional Games and Obsidian Entertainment, yes, you, the viewer, you peaked 10 years ago! But that's just my opinion, and everyone has one. So I invite you to tell me all about how my opinions stink in the comment section below this video. You've been wonderful, I've been Roth, thank you for watching.